Immigration Custom Enforcement. It's a brand new police force that came into being right after 9/11 because that's what America needs, a brand new police force. ICE. We don't need ICE because we don't have an immigration problem. ICE doesn't enforce immigration laws. There's not a single immigration law that says undocumented immigrants belong in a prison or should be rounded up and sent home. There are no laws on the book. That is purely the executive branch's discretion. In fact, international law says you cannot lock up a refugee. We don't need ICE. ICE is against international law. The American economy is built on ignoring undocumented immigrants. If you ignore undocumented immigrants, you get to ignore labor laws. And that's why we want undocumented Americans. The same people who say we have to crack down on immigration are making billions off the people they demonize. And one of the reasons for inflation is we can't find anyone to do a lot of the jobs that used to be done by people who came across the border. We're not allowing them in anymore. And most importantly, they no longer want to come here, not to work. They're refugees who want to come here, but they're not coming here to work. More Mexicans are leaving America than coming here. Did you know that? There are 2 million fewer undocumented Mexicans working here in America than there were 7 years ago. Yes, there is an immigration problem. Not enough are coming here to do the jobs that we won't do. Nobody wants to come here. They're coming from Central America. We have 50,000 Central Americans along the southern border, but they're not coming here for work. They're coming here to seek asylum from gang-infested governments we prop up in Honduras, Guatemala, El Salvador, and of course, Haiti. These people waiting to come in are not criminals. They're not people coming to take away your job. These are people coming to escape persecution from corrupt governments run by drug dealers propped up by fascists. They are not coming here to seek a better life. They are coming here to stay alive. So we don't have a problem with immigrants in this country. The Central Americans, by international law, are seeking political asylum. Therefore, they are supposed to be welcomed into this country, not put inside ICE for-profit concentration camps. And the people who demonize all these people of color, at the same time, they can't wait to exploit them. Restaurants, construction firms, slaughterhouses, big agri, they don't hire American citizens, or at least they don't want to hire American citizens. They want to hire undocumented workers because undocumented workers don't ask for too much money. They don't demand overtime. They're less likely to unionize. They don't complain about wage theft or working conditions. They're a compliant workforce. That's why the business model for so many of our corporations is hiring undocumented workers. Immigration, like critical race theory, is a problem that doesn't exist. But when you demonize people of color, you can blame someone other than the richest 1% for all the country's immiseration. It's not Jeff Bezos who destroyed Main Street. No, he didn't take away your jobs. It's all those brown people who have stopped coming here. We have a shortage of brown people coming from Mexico to do the jobs that Americans won't do. The people who love guns, they fear a police state, but they love the police. They hate immigrants, but they love ICE. They love ICE, but they hate the police. Why? Why would the people who hate the police, who fear a police state, love ICE? Well, because ICE has one responsibility: to pick up where the KKK left off and terrorize people of color. That is the job of ICE. to terrorize people of color. There is no need for ICE other than terrorizing people of color. There is no need for all these for-profit ICE concentration camps that spend anywhere between $40,000 to $125,000 a year to house a single detainee. These for-profit concentration camps that are run by ICE, they charge you, the taxpayer, $40,000 to $125,000 a year per detainee. These detainees are being held because they are Spanish-speaking brown people. And there's not a single law on the books that says immigrants must be detained. This is a decision made by our president, the executive branch, the president's immigration department. There is no reason to lock up women and children. None. There is no law on the books. It violates international law to put refugees, people seeking political asylum, in concentration camps. And these are concentration camps. In the past, people seeking asylum here in America used to be given over to a church or a government agency that would help these refugees blend into the country as they await their hearing before an administrative judge. And these people, and they are people, they always show up for their hearings. There is not a problem with women and children from Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras, and Haiti not showing up for their administrative hearings. This problem doesn't exist. It's manufactured. Listen to me. I know I'm not entertaining or fun, but I'm never wrong. ICE is America's Gestapo. ICE is America's Gestapo. They answer to the executive branch and the executive branch only. They answer only to the president. ICE is America's Gestapo. Joe Biden could order ICE to stop rounding up these women and children with the stroke of a pen. He could shut down these for-profit concentration camps today with the stroke of a pen. There is no need for ICE or these concentration camps. There is no need to detain women and children seeking political asylum from Central America. It is against international law. ICE is terrorizing communities, hanging outside schools and churches, waiting for undocumented fathers to drop their kids off at school or bring their families to church, and then ICE grabs them. They come in the middle of the night and grabs the father, separates him from the children and the wife, and they send that father back to the country he came from. They take the men from the families, separate the families, and the wife and the kids often stay in America, but the fathers are sent back. Why is that? Why? I've talked about the beast within. There's a beast within. I saw him this morning. He wrote a nasty manifesto. I almost had to make a citizen's arrest. I almost arrested myself. There's a beast within. And fascism thrives by catering to the beast within. I have a beast within. You have a beast within. I keep the beast within in check, but he's there. And I sometimes fantasize about grabbing someone who works for ICE. I'd like to think I'd grab one of these ICE pigs in front of his family. I fantasize about grabbing this pig from ICE and dragging him into my van with some of my friends and then putting him on a private jet and taking him to Haiti with no money in his pockets. And I fantasize by dumping him in Haiti off to the side of the road. My friends hold him down and then they open up his mouth so I can piss down his throat. As I say that, I can feel the beast within waking up. My body is tingling with excitement with that fantasy. The fantasy of just pissing down the throat of someone who works for ICE. But I wouldn't do that because I don't like peeing into men's mouths in public. And so I wouldn't do that. So I keep the beast in check. Not so the people who work for ICE. They don't keep the beast in check. They are beasts. If you work for ICE, you are a beast. The same way anyone who worked for the Gestapo was a beast. If you work for ICE, you are a beast. If you went to work for ICE, you probably went to work for ICE because you are a beast. Some of you went to work for ICE and ICE awakened the beast within. But I can assure you, anybody who works for ICE is a beast. I know who these men and women are who work for ICE. They're inside of me. They're inside of all of us. If Jesus died for our sins, ICE commits those sins for us. If Jesus died for our sins, ICE commits those sins for us. People who work for ICE rape, they torture and ruin lives, and they enjoy it. They are forcing women to get sterilized. There are stories of ICE, these ICE for-profit concentration camps, forcing women to be sterilized. There are stories of inmates at ICE concentration camps being forced to work for a bowl of soup. ICE is evil. ICE is America's Gestapo. Abolish ICE. They don't make us safer. They make us less safe. ICE destroys us because the people housed in those for-profit ICE concentration camps are us. They are not criminals. They are running from criminals. They are running from gangs who are identical to the beasts of ICE. The clock is ticking on our planet, and it's also ticking on what's left of whatever you want to call our republic. I voted for Joe Biden. So did Harriet Fraud, Dr. Harriet Fraud. So did a lot of people who share and shape my moral compass. Dr. Fraud said she voted for Joe Biden because he wouldn't shoot protesters in the street. I think that's probably true, maybe. We just found out from Mark Esper in his new book that when he was Secretary of Defense, Donald Trump asked him to shoot Black Lives Matter protesters. Donald Trump literally wanted our military to shoot protesters. Senator Tom Cotton, Republican, pretty much said the same thing in an article he wrote for the New York Times 2 years ago. Republicans do not believe in democracy. They've made that perfectly clear. They believe in guns, religion, money, and power. And they use people of color, the LGBTQ, as scapegoats. It's not corporate America's fault. It's not the right-wing authoritarians seizing power. None of those people are to blame. It's people of color. It's men marrying each other. It's the oldest trick in the book because it always works on the ignoramicizes. What's the plural of ignoramus? Ignorami? Ignoramicizes. So no, Biden won't shoot us all in the streets. But what he also won't do is shut down all the national security apparatuses. He won't remove all the tools at the right wing's disposal. I need a break. He won't remove all the tools at the right wing's disposal when they are back in charge. ICE has to be eliminated today while the Democrats are still in office, because we know the next Republican in office will be smarter than Trump. And Republicans are pretty good at ignoring the laws on the books and finding ones we forgot even existed, like Title 42, which allows ICE to keep people from entering this country if they are believed to be carrying a communicable disease. Nobody knew about Title 42. Nobody. But Trump's people found it. The virulent white nationalist Stephen Miller found Title 42. And this president, like the president before him, has been using Title 42 to keep hundreds of thousands of people from entering America. Now, Biden says he's going to reverse the usage of Title 42, but he's not getting rid of the law. The executive branch should not have the authority to decide unilaterally when and if immigrants from a specific country should be banned. Biden doesn't get credit for reversing Trump's use of Title 42. It needs to be removed from the United States Code of Law. There are hundreds of emergency powers given to a president by law. They need to be taken away from the president today. There are laws on the books right now that would allow a president to turn ICE into his own private Gestapo. A party like the Democrats, a president like Biden doesn't deserve credit for not invoking these laws, for not taking advantage of them. A president deserves credit for getting rid of these laws so those laws are not sitting around for the next president to use. One of the reasons this country hasn't completely succumbed to the fascist elements in America is because during and right after Watergate, the Democrats were able to pass new laws that made it harder for presidents to do things like lead us into a protracted war without congressional approval. They set up inspector generals who keep an eye on the executive branch. To prevent the ruling class from controlling elections right after Watergate, the Democrats passed campaign finance laws that Citizens United and, more importantly, Barack Obama rendered useless. Remember, Barack Obama was so great at fundraising, he turned his back on public financing. All he had to do to keep campaign finance law alive was to say, I'm not taking private donations. Obama did that. Hitler didn't break the law. He changed the laws. The Enabling Act was passed right when he came to power so he could have more power. Fascism can only exist if there are laws on the books that make it easier for a country to become an authoritarian regime. The Republicans are going to be in charge sooner than you think. One of the reasons Trump couldn't shoot protesters, fire rockets into Mexico, seize ballot boxes, and overturn the election, all these things he tried to do, he did not succeed because there were still laws that prevent him from doing this. The issue now isn't whether Trump will be prosecuted. That ship has sailed. We know he's not going to get prosecuted. The issue is, how do we plug the holes today to make sure the next Trump doesn't have the legal authorization to turn this country into a full-on authoritarian regime? And the first law we need to get passed is getting rid of ICE. According to a new report by the Georgetown Center on Privacy and Technology, most Americans right now are being spied upon by ICE. Did you know that? The Los Angeles Times this Wednesday reported that ICE has created a vast network of surveillance equipment that allows ICE to keep track of all of us, bypassing every single law on the books. In other words, ICE is spying on us, and it's perfectly legal. The Los Angeles Times says of this new report coming out of Georgetown, Los Angeles Times says the report paints a picture of an agency, ICE, that has gone well beyond its immigration enforcement mandate. instead of evolving into something of a broader domestic surveillance agency. And ICE has no comment. Whenever I read a story about ICE, ICE is asked for a comment, and they have no comment because ICE doesn't believe in a free and open press. Who ever heard of a police department like ICE that doesn't have press briefings? The FBI has press briefings. The Justice Department has press briefings. Every local police chief does press briefings. Every other police force has to answer to the press, not ICE. The Pentagon has daily press briefings, not ICE. ICE purports to have an Office of Public Affairs, but they don't return calls. I called them today. They weren't even picking up their phones. ICE needs to be shut down. In order to save this republic, we need to make it easier to vote, but we also need to shut down ICE. ICE operates with no oversight. They answer to nobody. They are a separate arm of law enforcement working in tandem with for-profit prison companies. This has all the makings of a country in which you keep your mouth shut or they come for you in the middle of the night. And that's what ICE does. They come for you in the middle of the night. Don't tell me you're worried about democracy without also telling me you're also worried about ICE. There is an epidemic of suicide in America, and keeping ICE open is suicide. I'm not fun to be around, but I'm always right. And I am telling you, ICE will serve as our tyrant's Gestapo. It is a brand new police force whose only institutional memory is one of thuggery. Say what you want about the American police and the FBI. There is a proud tradition of men and women who serve, and they want to protect the institution. ICE has no such institutional memory. It was set up after 9/11. It is made up of mentally deranged thugs who delight in awakening the beast within. They are fascists. They work with private prison companies to gouge taxpayers and build for-profit concentration camps. ICE answers to nobody but themselves and their corporate beneficiaries. It is an organization of sadists who delight in cruelty. ICE is everything that's wrong with law enforcement. They perform no public service other than punishing innocent women and children and satisfying their beast within and our nation's beast within.